Hello Year 2. Our learning objective for our maths lesson today is to build and draw block diagrams. Last week, Year 2, you learnt a little bit about pictograms. And if you look closely here, you can see that we have a pictogram at the top of this page. This pictogram shows us the number of cubes that have been collected by the children. The key up here tells us that one picture of a cube is equal to one cube. So let's see if we can count up how many cubes have been collected by the children. We can see that we have 8 green cubes altogether. We have 11 yellow cubes altogether, and we have 1 red cube. If we were to make towers using these cubes, we would have 8 cubes in the green tower, 11 cubes in the yellow tower, and 1 cube in the red tower, just like you can see down here. Okay, let's see if we can make a block diagram. We're going to do it on squared paper, like you can see here. For a blocked diagram, we need a nice straight line going up the side, just like this one here of the paper, and a nice straight line going across the bottom, just like this one here. When it comes time for you to draw your own block diagrams, you will need to use a ruler to help you get nice straight lines. These 2 lines, the one going up the side and the one going across, are called the axes. Okay. Once we've drawn our 2 straight lines, our axes, we need a scale. The scale that you can see on our block diagram are the numbers that are going up the side here. You can see that our numbers are going up in ones. Each of the numbers sits in their own square. We also need to name our blocks. So we have a green, a yellow, and a red for the different coloured blocks. Now, we need to remember how many green cubes that we have. We know that we have 8 green cubes, so we can colour in 8 blocks or 8 squares. When we think about how many yellow cubes we have, we know that we have 11, so we can colour in 11 blocks or 11 squares. And for the red cube, we know that we just have 1 red cube, so we just colour in 1 block or 1 square, just like you can see over here. Okay, and this over here is our block diagram for the different coloured cubes. You can see that we've coloured in 8 blocks for the green cubes, 11 blocks for the yellow cubes, and 1 block for the red cube. Okay, it's over to you now, Year 2. What I'd like you to do now is to create your own block diagram using this information in this table here. This is all about children's favourite colour. You can see that 5 children like the colour red, 8 children like the colour green, 7 children like the colour blue, and 2 children like the colour yellow. You're going to see if first of all you can create a block diagram using either cubes or wooden blocks, or perhaps if you're at home you may have some Lego that you could use as well. If you don't have any of those things handy, then perhaps you could just draw little squares to represent the blocks. So please have a little go at that. You need to pause the video now and use the information in this table to help you create your block diagram. Okay, year 2, you should have all had a little practice now of making a block diagram using either blocks or cubes or even Lego. I'm going to show you now what your block diagram should look like. Okay, we know that there are 5 children who like the colour red, so we can draw 5 little squares, or you should have had 5 little blocks for those children to represent those children. Okay, then we have 8 children who like the colour green, so we can have 8 little squares to represent the 8 children. Seven, 8. We know that we have 7 children who like the colour blue, so we can have 7 squares to represent the 7 children. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then finally we can see that there are 2 children who like the colour yellow best of all. So we can draw 2 squares to represent the 2 children. Okay, so this is what our block diagram should look a little bit like. So if you've used blocks or cubes or Lego, then you should have assembled towers in the different colours. If you've drawn it using squares on paper, then it should look a little bit like the one that I've drawn here. Here you can see another example of a block diagram. And a block diagram is used to clearly display results and information. The types of items are shown on the axes here at the bottom. This is called the x-axis and goes across. And the number of items are shown on the other axes, the y-axis, which is vertical and goes up the side. And this is where we write our scale. You can see that on this block diagram, one block represents one item. Okay, so that you can see we've got different types of animals that we're looking at. You can see that we have dogs, cats, snakes, bears, horse, and goose. Okay, you can see that there are 10 dogs represented on this block diagram because we have coloured in 10 blocks. How many cats are represented on this block diagram? Have a little think. Yes, you're right. 8. So we've coloured in 8 blocks. What about snakes? Yes, you're right. 2 snakes because we've coloured in 2 blocks. How many bears can we see? 4. 4 bears are represented because we've coloured in 4 blocks. Okay, what about the horses? Okay, how many horses are represented on this block diagram? Count them up quickly. Yes, you're right. 6, because we've coloured in 6 blocks. Do we have a goose? No, we don't have a goose because we don't have any blocks coloured in for the goose. Okay, so that's the information that we can see displayed on this block diagram. Okay, year 2. Here you can see a pictogram, and this pictogram tells us how many balloons we have altogether. And the key below, just here, tells us that 1 balloon is equal to 10 balloons in real life. We're going to draw a block diagram now to represent this data. So down here you can see that we've begun to draw a block diagram. We've got 2 axes. We've got one line going down the side and one line going across the bottom. We have labelled this axis to red and green for the balloons. Look at the scale going up the side. It's going up in fives. I can see that the numbers in the scale are sat on the line. So when we colour in one block, we know that that will represent 5 balloons. Have a look back at the pictogram now. We can see that we have one full red balloon and one half balloon. We know from the key that each balloon is equal to 10 balloons. So one full balloon and one half a balloon is the same as saying 10 plus 5, which makes 15. So on our block diagram, we would colour in up to here, up to the number 15. Let's take a look at the green balloons now. We know that we can see 2 full balloons, and we know that each picture of a balloon is equal to 10 real life balloons. So that means we've got 10 and 10, which makes 20. So in the green part of our block diagram, we would colour in 4 blocks up to the number 20. Let's have a little look what that looks like. So you can see when we complete our block diagram, we've got 15, we've got 15 red balloons and 20 green balloons. Right, it's over to you now, Year 2. It's time for you to choose an activity. Choose one that you think suits you the best. Task 1. If you think you need more practice, then complete the zoo block diagram which is attached to the post on Google Classroom. Task 2. If you think you are ready to draw your own block diagram, then use the information in the table that is attached to the Google Classroom post to help you draw a block diagram. Task 3. If you are feeling really confident, then you could make your own block diagram on favourite foods, favourite sports, or a choice of your own. Remember, if you are drawing your own block diagram, then you need to use a ruler to draw the axes so that you get nice straight lines. Then you need to remember to label it carefully too. You can do it in your maths book if you have it handy. If you don't have your maths book handy, then I will attach a piece of squared paper to the Google Classroom post so that you can do it on there instead. If you do decide to draw your own block diagram, then please watch the extra video link that I've attached to the Google Classroom post that gives you some top tips on how to draw really good block diagrams. Plenary time. Have a look at this block diagram. Think about what it's showing you and what you can see. Look carefully and see if you can have a go at answering the questions. If you're at home, perhaps you could talk to someone about it. Okay, have fun.